Alright, so I'm going to attempt to show you the progress I've made. Well, I mean, I'm done, but I'm just going to go over everything I've done. So, we're in the Mi-2, and so I did a bunch of experimenting, and I figured out a way for myself to reliably start this aircraft from cold and dark, just straight up after loading, no running engines or anything like that. So I'm going to go ahead and try to teach you how to do it. Um, Also up here you'll notice I have the fuel counts and the fuel consumption rates for the engines up here. So let me look at my notes. Alright, so my initial testing showed that during normal operation, the the fuel consumption was 212 I'm sorry, 112 gallons per hour. And so I've got that down to 50. And then also noted there was constant fires and engine overheating and lack of power. And so here's our gas temperature gauges down here. So we'll monitor those as we go along. And the main rotor. So before under full load, the rotor would start at around 82 to 85%, and as we increased our collective, it would slowly drop into maybe the 50s or 60s. And obviously, we didn't have any power to get moving along, so it took care of that. The problem with that was the engine was underpowered. So I did some research. The engine in this aircraft is supposed to have 804 horsepower. Um, Before I got the engine, we were looking at 520 horsepower. So we went ahead and upgraded that, and then we redid the fuel to bring it back down to the 50 gallon per hour mark instead of 112. So now I'm just going to do a quick flight and demonstration to show that everything is operating as it should. So without further ado, we will begin the engine start procedure. So first things first, um, as you already know, the airplane's really weird and it doesn't sit on the ground. And so that hovering like an inch off the ground makes it so that we can't do the first step, which is taking off the engine covers and the chocks down here. So we are going to add a bunch of weight in order to make the plane fall to the ground, or the aircraft. So what I do is, you can go ahead and open the door. So using the tablet, you can edit the fuel and weight ratios or values. And it's important you do that before you start your flight, or else, FSE will cancel a bunch of stuff for you. So we go in here, and then basically we're going to increase the fuel all the way, and then we're going to take the payload to about 11,000, and that should bring it into the correct range. So as you see, the the helicopter drops down to the ground, and then also you can see we have the correct, well, almost the correct fuel. Actually, this is the correct fuel, just about off by like 1 gallon. So then once you do that, you click on this handle here, brings up the ground service menu. You're going to hover your mouse over this and you see the little hand pops up, and then you click on remove ground equipment and it removes the engine covers and the chocks from outside. You're going to do the same thing for the ground power. You're going to hover until that hand is over on, click it. Nothing's going to happen immediately, but just know you've done your job. Then you can click that handle again to remove the window. Next step, go ahead and start your FSE if you want to capture all the time and everything. I go ahead and start it now. So we have one assignment with 3 people to maximize our weight. And then we have 336 gallons of fuel on board. And that's only because I filled up your helicopter and then I did this test flight before I recorded it to make sure everything was working properly. So, yeah, that's why we have a little bit less fuel. I didn't want to waste your money and charge you more for using, like, filling up. Just trust me that it works. Alright, so next, I'm going to go ahead and close the door back up. Alright, so then the next step is turning on the fire system. Remember, you want to do all these steps in this particular order and this exact way. I figured out if you do them out of this order or switch things maybe in the wrong direction, it will not work properly. Alright, so then first step, after getting all that stuff taken care of, you're going to start the fire monitoring system. So then we're going to take the battery switch up here and we're going to move it to external power. So click and drag it left/down. And then we're going to have our GPU pop up outside. And then that's going to be taken care of. Alright, and then the next step, we want to release the rotor brake. So down to the right of the seat, not the collective, but just past that, the rotor brake's there. You're going to push that down to release the rotors. And then behind us, there's emergency fuel. You're going to, the emergency fuel cutoff, you're going to, not bring some magazines. I don't know why I'm reading and flying, but go ahead and put both of those into the down position, which allows the fuel to flow. Alright, let's see. Then I'm going to go ahead and turn on the nav light, or the beacon, I'm sorry. And then we're going to come over to this side over here. So underneath these 3 sections of lights, there are these black bars. You click them, and it's going to turn on all, I said lights, switches. It's going to flip all the switches into the up position, which you want to do. And then this is heating and anti-ice. It's a nice summer day. We don't have to really worry about any of that. Alright. So then our next step, these 3 lights are flashing, so it's getting power. So above these switches are your fuel cutoff, your regular fuel cutoff to the engines. The ones down there are emergency. So let's see. Our next step, now we're going to move over to the engine start panel. Let me make sure. Yeah. We're going to move over to the engine start panel. So the auto pump switch that's over here, or the fuel pump I should say, you're going to want to switch it down into the fuel pump 2 on position, not auto pump. A lot of other videos show that you can move it up and switch over the fuel pumps, but it didn't work when I attempted it. So this you want to put into the down position, the fuel pump 2 on. Alright, that's going to flip this light on and make sure that light's on. If not, then you didn't do something right. Usually the battery's not working or whatever. Alright, and then you're going to put your engine running switch to the start position. Alright, and then you're going to select which engine you want to start. And either engine, I tested it, both sides will work. I'll show you the right side first just for gets and jiggles. So you flip it over to the right side. Alright, and then the next step is going to be the actual engine start. So the procedure is you're going to click the engine start button, which are these 2 buttons, for the engine you have selected, hold it for 2 seconds. The engine will then begin to engage, and then you're going to flip up the corresponding fuel switch to let fuel flow into the engine. So we're going to go ahead and do that now for engine, the right engine. So 1, 2, it's going to go ahead and start kicking in. So then we can get the right engine some fuel. So then we're going to monitor our engine speed, make sure it comes up. And then we're going to monitor our main rotor, and we're going to want that to get up to 40 to 45-ish, I believe. And also it's important to notice, like, the blades are rotating to the right. So that means when we take off, we're going to have to give some right torque pedal input because it's going to want to turn to the left. So that's good to remember. This is an interesting helicopter because a lot of the functions aren't typical of like your bells. So some things, while they're the same in theory, they're a little bit different. So the rotor's up to speed now. So now we're going to go ahead and repeat the engine start for number 1, left side. So then 1, 2, it's going to start kicking up. Getting some fuel. Watch and make sure it's going to turn up. If it hangs up here at like 30 to 40% and then drops back down, you're going to want to start this over. Something did not work right. That's the common issue I ran into when I was doing my testing, trying to figure out how to get this machine to start reliably. So now the rotor should move up to maybe around 50 to 55, I believe. Okay. Alright. So now we've got our engines started. So you typically want to let them idle for a minute or two. So we're checking our temperatures. It's at about 790 degrees, which is fine. The max of temperature that you want to have this thing running at is 980, which is with the heavy stuff. That's typically where it's going to be around when we're flying. As long as it doesn't cross beyond 980, you shouldn't have any problems. Okay. So now the engines are running. So now we're going to go ahead and turn the battery on. So you're going to drag it all the way to the right/up into the on position. You want to make sure it goes all the way up, or else you're going to have problems midway through your flight. So it's up. So now we're going to go ahead and start our generators. I just realized these are not draggable, they just click. So the generators are on, the GPU should disappear, so it is gone. So then you're going to turn your hydraulics on. And you basically just want to make sure all these lights are out. If all the lights are out, you should be good to go. Remember that. If you forget something, it's going to lead to problems. And you're going to do your DC converters. You're going to put them in the far up position. Alright. So now that that's all done, we're going to go ahead and switch our engine back to the middle position, our engine selector. We're going to put this into the running mode, and we're going to put our fuel pump into the off position, which is the middle. Make sure not to drag it in the up. I didn't test to see what happens, so the results may vary. Alright. So we can go ahead and turn on our nav lights. So, after that, we're going to grab our cyclic and try to keep it in a neutral position. Because this is a 3-wheeled aircraft that's not really optimized for the ground, it tips over easily in any direction. So once the rotors are at full speed, you want to make sure you have it in a very neutral position, or else you're going to run into problems. So the only thing that I couldn't do with controls or clickable is the throttle. So I have it set to throttle up at F2 and throttle down at F1. So you're going to want to put your throttle up, and it should bring your engine and main rotor up to just below 85, I believe. So we're going to go ahead and do that now. Throttled all the way up. So the parameters here, 85% is what you want your main rotor to stay at the entirety of your flight. Your engine can go anywhere from this 85, 86% up to 101, but not exceeding 101, or else you're gonna overheat your engine. Let's see. We're at 850 meters. Keep in mind, these gauges here, the climb, forgot what it's called, climb, you know, the climb indicator, and your altitude indicator, they're in meters. So remember that these the way I remember is to time those numbers by 3. So when you're at 500 meters per second, you're climbing at 1500 meters per second. And when we're at 850 feet, we're really at about 2500 feet. Or 850 meters, we're at about 2500 feet. So, one last check, make sure everything's how it's supposed to be. We're good to go. So now, we're gonna go ahead. Oh, you see this bobbing? I don't know if this happens on your computer, but whenever I'm on the ground, it seems like any small input will cause the helicopter to bob up and down. So I think it's kind of funny, like a clown helicopter. Alright. So now we can go ahead and take off. So I'm going to go ahead and lift. So our collective input, we can see how much we're giving. So 7 is enough for a hover. For takeoff, I lower it down maybe to 5, and then 7 is also around where I find in this area, at your FBO, where the cruise speed is going to be the most appropriate, keeping it at 7. And the cruising airspeed for this particular helicopter, according to everything I've read, is 200 kilometers per hour. So that's what we're going to try to maintain for our testing purposes. So yeah, alright, we're going to really take off now. I've said it like a couple times now. So go ahead and give it some collective. So I can feel it starting to get light when you give some rotor input and the nose changes directions. That's how you know. I guess this is a helicopter tutorial, how to fly for anybody else who's watching. So then we're going to, since this is a wheeled aircraft with a small wheel in front, we're going to give some back cycles a little bit, and then we're going to try to balance and add more collective power. So as you see, with a little bit, with our climbing amount of collective, the engine is right around 920, so we're still good. We just don't want to exceed 980. I'm going to hurry up and do this so I don't burn all your fuel. So we'll hover here for a minute or so, just to make sure that the temperature doesn't exceed what it's supposed to. And as you see down there, I'm giving around that 7 input for collective. And keep in mind, we're on full weight, full fuel. So you shouldn't have any problems as long as everything operates the same on your end, which I don't see why it wouldn't, but we can work it out if something doesn't work out. I'll keep taking a look at it. Alright, so as you see down there, we're keeping around the 980 mark, which is where it's going to be whenever we're at full. So we're going to go ahead and take off. We're going to do a little bit of flying, and we're going to see what the fuel flow is like. As you see in this hover, we're at about 57 gallons per hour. So let's go ahead and get out of here. This is a squirrely bird, so got to work a little bit to keep it under control. Definitely got to be on your tippy toes the entire time. So the acceptable climb out rate is, or speed is 100 kilometers per hour. So we're doing about 125 right now, so should be good. Monitor temperatures still around 960. So we'll go up to 1,000 meters. We'll reach in a moment. Down there. Alright, go ahead and try to level off. I'm gonna fly out this way a little bit and see what we're getting here. So I'm gonna increase start collective until we get up to our cruising speed of 200 kilometers per hour. Alright, so as you see, let's bring it down a little bit. At 200 kilometers per hour-ish, we're using around 57 gallons per hour of fuel. So if you get this thing to an altitude of 1,500 meters or higher, you will see a significant, well not a significant, you will see a fuel consumption rate benefit. So right around, once you hit the 1,500 meter mark, you will see around that 50-hour per mark, 50 gallon per hour mark that you want. So it's beneficial to try to fly up at a little bit higher of an altitude, which is that 1,500 meter is the 4,500 foot mark, just for reference. Yeah, if you want to go a little bit slower, you can also increase your better your mileage, is what I'm trying to say. If you want to watch your speed, it's easy to overspeed this little thing. Or not little, but you know what I'm saying. But yeah, it's 57 gallon per hour, much better than the 112 gallons we were facing before. And now we have the appropriate power to carry this heavy aircraft when it's full. So we'll go ahead and land so I'm not using too much more of the fuel. Alright, so that was a successful little flight. So the last important thing I would say for anybody who's not flown this thing before is make sure that you throttle down before you let your cyclic go if you don't have a hydraulically spring loaded cyclic, because this thing will just fly over. So I'll go ahead and kill the nav lights and then cut the fuel. Follow your checklist for the rest of the steps, because I will be honest, I did not look at them for this. So, but yeah, that was the startup and engine specs of the Mi-2.